Hi, and welcome to the audio version of Overcoming Shyness. Break out of your shell and express your true self. Written and narrated by Erik Myers. Before we dive into the book, I want to give you a little preview of what to expect specifically for this audiobook. I'm not sure if you've had this experience, but many times I got really excited about a new audiobook I was going to listen to. I start listening to it, the information is great, the content is great, but the person reading it is so dry and boring that I just don't end up listening to the whole thing. And that's definitely not what I want for this audiobook. I want it to feel more simply like a conversation between you and I, as if we're sitting right next to each other. So as I'm reading through the book, if an idea comes to me or a story comes to me, I might go off the script, expand on that a little bit, just so it feels more natural between you and I. And just so this audio journey doesn't feel like a blind date together, let's make sure to connect on social media if we aren't already. You can find me on Instagram at ErikMyers4, Facebook.com/ErikMyers4, YouTube at Myers Mindset, or if you want, send me an email at ErikErik@overcomingshyness.co. Lastly, this book would not have been possible without the love and support from my beautiful wife, Dominique, my mom, my siblings, Kelsey, Ryan, and Carrie, my mother-in-law, and everyone who ever believed in me before I believed in myself. Also, this book is in loving memory of my dad, Craig Gilpin Myers. Without further ado, let's dive into it. Introduction. Have you ever had the experience when you knew the answer to a question in a class or had a great idea in a meeting at work, but no matter how much you wanted to raise your hand or speak out, there's just something holding you back? Or maybe you're minding your own business, walking down a hall or a busy street, and you see from afar someone you barely know. You see them, but they haven't seen you yet. And suddenly, you activate your inner James Bond and you strategically reroute your path to avoid an awkward conversation. What about when you're introduced to a friend of a friend and you have absolutely no idea what you're going to say after, "Hi, nice to meet you." So you look back at your friend with a desperate expression on your face that screams, "Help me!" You definitely aren't alone, my friend. These experiences weren't just occasional things for me growing up. They were part of my daily routine. I actually became so good at being shy and hiding in my little shell that I earned the title of most quiet during my senior year of high school. Yay. Those awkward social scenarios that I referred to weren't just uncomfortable, they were painful for me. My stomach would tighten up and I would literally exhaust myself by overanalyzing and critiquing everything that I did or I said. Since those feelings and thoughts were a daily occurrence, I rationalized in my head that this is just who I was and how it was going to be. Ultimately, my shyness grew into social anxiety. Combine those anxious thoughts with insecurities and the death of a loved one, and I was one step away from ending my life during the second year of college. I'll explain more on how that all happened in the second chapter. But you and I both know that this book isn't about me. It's about you and your future. I want to share with you the exact steps I've taken throughout this journey to help you overcome shyness, improve social skills, and most importantly, express more of your true self. Whether you're an introvert or extrovert, loud or quiet, reserved or open, it doesn't matter. The principles and path I'm going to lay out in this book will help you stand apart from the crowd, make more friends, and feel more comfortable in your own skin. What are we waiting for? Let's get started. First, you need to know what to expect. The first half of the book will be your chance to go within and begin to strengthen your mindset by understanding what's been holding you back, how to create lasting change, and start focusing on your exciting new future. During this section, I'll be opening up and sharing with you my own journey, and then explaining each principle and how it can be applied to your life. I do this to demonstrate that these aren't simply theories that I've read or researched. I've lived them, and I know that they have the power to have the same benefits for you. The second half of the book is when it starts to get really exciting. I'll be sharing with you the best techniques and practices that you can use out in the real world to build your confidence muscle and start applying these practical social skills. I'll refer to these as your back pocket tips because you can pull them out anytime, anywhere. You can use them to spark up and enjoy a friendly conversation and potentially make a new friend. When you use one of these techniques, you may notice a little confidence boost and pep to yourself afterwards. Embrace it. Other times, it might feel awkward and uncomfortable, especially at first. And this is completely normal. Embrace it. There's one more thing you should know before we dive into this journey together. Throughout the book, I'll often refer to you and your true self. The opposite, of course, is your false self. I believe that you and I are behaving in our false self whenever we believe in the thoughts that make us feel anxious, fearful, judgmental, lonely, stressed, worried, or in constant need of validation. Our true self is when we're aligned with the thoughts that make us feel worthy, loved, accepted, thankful, relaxed, connected, honest, forgiving, trusting, or at peace. Your true self is not a reference to any religious practice. Rather, it's a state of mind in which you feel good and connected with the core of what makes you human. Now that you're warmed up and stretched out, let's start with Section 1, Mindset. Chapter 1, the 4-letter F word, fear. Quote, "The greatest prison people live in is the fear of what other people think." Unquote. Many people form opinions about what they know nothing about, including you and me, but act like they're authorities on the subject. So why should we fear other people's opinions and comments? I spent years being afraid of talking to people out of the fear of their disapproval. But I eventually discovered that most people weren't judging and critiquing me as much as I thought they were, and those who did really didn't know me. I was trapped in my own mind because of fear. Before I discovered how to cope with my fear of talking to another person, I had 2 very different strategies to relieve anxiety and forget my insecurities in social situations. One of them was really effective. The other one led to me almost ending my life. Whoa. The first strategy worked really well and came natural to me as a kid, and that was playing sports. Swimming was my favorite, maybe because there's no obligation to start a conversation since everyone's head is underwater most of the time, and I actually became pretty good at it. If I wasn't in the pool, I was kicking a ball around, shooting hoops, or playing baseball. As long as I was moving and active, I was good to go. I'm going to go off script for a second and add that even to this day, my mom loves to share with people that my first phrase was hat, mitt, ball. And this all makes sense, right? It's tough to stay in your own head and let fear get the best of you when you also have to dodge a ball or guard an opponent at the same time. I'd be totally immersed in the game or the race, and I didn't have time to worry. Once high school and organized sports ended, I had to find a new outlet for my shyness. I was too afraid to pursue my dream of becoming a college athlete, so I did what I thought was the next best thing. I went to the sports-crazed University of Oregon. By this time, my shyness was slowly transforming into social anxiety. I skipped the dorm experience, so many people, that sounded terrifying, and instead I lived with a small group of really close friends from high school. The good news was that I found a new way to escape my fears and just be myself. But the bad news was it wasn't exactly the best type of outlet. I did what I thought every college kid was doing, was drinking, partying as much as possible. Although I was barely passing any of my classes, I was succeeding in the art of beer pong and King's Cup. Don't get me wrong, I don't think it's horrible to let loose and have a few drinks. It's just that for me at this time, it was solely about escaping the crappy thoughts that were in my mind. Again, off topic, but I really want to emphasize this point. While other people were drinking a lot to get drunk and have fun, I was drinking to escape my own thoughts. Specifically, my insecurities, my anxieties, all those crappy ideas that were floating around my head. Instinctively, I knew that binge drinking wasn't a healthy strategy, but it was an effective one to get out of my own mind. It was the only time that I felt like I could really be myself, like I was saying, my true self. In class or at work, I was really reserved and I was detached from the world around me. But after a few too many shots with my buddies, usually being our favorite cheap rum, Barbarossa, I would come out of my shell and finally give myself permission to, just be myself and talk to people. This perpetual cycle of living in constant fear and binge drinking took me down a dark path, which I'll talk more about in the next chapter. Right now, we need to know where our fears come from and how we can begin to see them for what they really are. Why fear and shyness get along so well. Fear has been so embedded in our nervous systems because thousands of years ago, I'm talking like caveman days, it was an extremely important and useful emotional response. It was our internal warning sign that would protect us from the saber-toothed tigers that were trying to make our ancestors their dinner. In the modern world, we still have that same emotional trigger in our bodies. It's just that we aren't being hunted by a hungry beast. Most of our social fears stem from the caveman days. Back then, if you were rejected and shunned by the tribe, it was basically a death sentence. You either died of starvation or you became some predator's meal. We no longer live in tribes and depend on them for our physical survival. Unfortunately, we're still hardwired to belong to a group and fear rejection. These fears are totally irrational. Today, if someone rejects us, nothing happens. We're totally safe. We know this logically, but our brains are still hardwired to equate rejection with death. Rejection doesn't feel nice, but that's not enough to cause paralyzing fear. This is our brain's way of keeping us safe from something it perceives to be a real threat to our survival, because it's still operating in that caveman mode. In most scenarios, for quiet people like you and me, fear of rejection comes up when we're meeting someone new, we're giving a speech in public, being interviewed for a job, or maybe even just simply answering a phone call. It's important to understand that fear isn't something external. We can't pick it up, pack it tight, lock it in a box, and throw away the key in efforts to get rid of it. It comes from within. It's even more important to realize that because you're a quiet or shy person, you probably have a very powerful imagination. Our active imaginations can serve either as our best friends or our worst enemies. We can use it to create a highlight reel of all the times we felt awkward and uncomfortable around other people, or we can envision ourselves meeting someone new and boldly shaking their hand, looking them in the eye, and making an amazing first impression. So how do we effectively channel that adrenaline and racing heartbeat when fear is triggered in our minds? We've got to make an internal shift from camera in, camera out. One of my favorite classes later in college was, go figure, an introduction to acting. It was way outside of my comfort zone. The professor was an exuberant man, and he taught us with immersion, not just boring lectures talking about theories and history. It was my kind of class. Within the first week of class, he had us do an exercise that I'll never forget. One by one, he challenged us to stand up in front of the class and give a 1-minute presentation sharing our backgrounds and a little bit about ourselves. The first time each person got up, he gave him or her a mirror that reflected the person's face for the full minute. It was literally right in front of their face. I'm not sure who felt more uncomfortable each time someone did this, the presenter or the audience. When it was my turn and I started talking with a giant mirror reflecting back at me, I could only notice how my hair was all messed up, the food that was stuck in my teeth, and the weird way that my lips shaped as I spoke. The second time around, there was no mirror. As you can imagine, the energy in the room was completely different this time. Each presenter was much more smooth and everyone was way more comfortable. After everyone presented twice, he went on to explain that when a mirror is in front of us, either real or imagined, we're only focused on ourselves. We predominantly think about how we look and how others perceive us. We are critical and judgmental. As a result, our camera is in, and we're much less effective as communicators. When we flip the camera around, however, we have the ability to focus all of our attention and energy on people and our environment. Once our camera is out, we are free to connect with the world around us. Before we move on, take a minute just to be real with yourself and reflect. Do you go throughout your daily routine with your camera in or out? Are you focused on yourself or others? Are you trapped in your head or are you living in the present moment? While someone else is talking, are you thinking about what you're going to say next? It's okay if you do this. It doesn't make you crazy. It means you're human and you have room to grow. The very first step is to start becoming aware of where you decide to focus. Remember, when our camera is in, we're consumed with fear. When our camera is out, we're able to tap into our Chapter 2, Potential. As I mentioned in the last chapter, I was heading down a dark path at a fast rate. One particular morning I'll never forget. It was after another night of excessive drinking, and as soon as I woke up, I knew that something was wrong. As I replayed back in my head everything I could remember from the night before, I started feeling really, really dumb. Why did I say that? Why did I do that? You are such an idiot, Erik. I got out of my bed to get some water and see if my friends were awake. I needed a distraction. No one was up yet, and our apartment looked like the scene from The Hangover. All that was missing was a tiger in the bathroom and a missing tooth. I paced up and down the halls, and one word kept screaming in my head over and over again. Discontent, discontent, discontent. The regret I was feeling, combined with a massive hangover, was too much to take. So I stepped outside for some fresh air and started walking. It was a crisp, chilly day in Eugene, Oregon. I was in my own little world, and I kept dwelling on a very scary thought. I was losing control of my actions, and I was losing control of my life. Before I knew it, I was at the infamous Autzen footbridge, hunched over a rail, staring down at the river passing below. I'm not sure how long I was there, but it felt like hours as I just watched the water go by. What if I just jumped off and let my body go? Oh, was that the alcohol talking, or did I really just think that? I had never contemplated a thought like this before, and it didn't sound like a horrible idea. I was desperate for anything that would quiet the garbage that was going on in my head. Once I came to my senses and I realized how ridiculous that was, I got away from the bridge before I did something stupid. But the contemplation of that very thought scared the shit out of me. I knew something had to change, otherwise I'd be back at the bridge before I knew it. A couple weeks later, I accidentally started reading a self-help book. I didn't know that it was one of those books, and if I did, I don't think I would have read it. How I was introduced to the book is a little embarrassing, and if you judge me for it, I won't hold it against you. On Thursday nights, or we like to call it Thirsty Thursdays, my roommates and I would get a cheap bottle of rum, again, usually Barbarossa, and we watched the newest episode of MTV's The Jersey Shore. Again, you can laugh now, it's all good. We fed off the energy of the show in our attempt to live the gym, tan, laundry lifestyle. At the end of an episode, one of the characters, Vinny, came on the screen and he talked about his latest book about anxiety. It was called Control the Crazy. Before I knew it, I was on Amazon downloading the book, which was really weird because I hated reading. But this one was different and I couldn't put it down. I don't think my head stopped nodding up and down like a bobblehead as I scrolled through each page. As I learned about his story and internal battles, it occurred to me, maybe I'm not the only one who feels isolated and disconnected from the world. If this guy, who had become a TV celebrity and best-selling author, experienced the same negative thoughts, self-doubt, and insecurities that I was feeling each day, then there had to be others like me as well. A shift in perspective. In the book, Vinny talked about how each person has around 60,000 thoughts per day. Again, 60,000 thoughts per day. I don't know about you, but that blew me away, and then it scared me. I estimated that at least 75% of my thoughts consisted of something like, why am I so shy? There's just got to be something wrong with me. I shouldn't have said that. Someday why am I so awkward? I should have said something. I wish I were more confident. If only I were like, and on and on and on. And then something clicked. If Vinny had those same negative thoughts about anxiety and he changed, why couldn't I change? I just had to do what he did. This began to strengthen a belief in me that what's possible for one is possible for all. So I began meditating, lifting weights, doing yoga, journaling what I was thankful for, eating healthier, reading more books like this, and most importantly, I sought out counseling. During this process, there would be times where I would envision what my life would be like once my shyness was no longer in the driver's seat. I would see myself being social, and it felt incredible to imagine that freedom. I was slowly becoming obsessed with this idea of personal development, something completely new to me. Reading a book for class about biology or chemistry bored me to tears, even to this day. But if I picked up a book that taught me how to control my emotions and strengthen my mindset, I couldn't put it down. I began to believe, really for the first time, that I could really reprogram my mind. I started to think of my brain like a computer. There were inputs and outputs that just needed to be readjusted. Although I was starting to feel better on the inside, from the outside, my life didn't look much different. I didn't feel completely comfortable telling people about these new little tricks I'd been picking up, but I could see a shift starting to build up. I had no idea that the biggest turning point in my life was just around the corner, and we'll explore that in Chapter 3. Why aren't I living to my fullest potential? I think we can both agree that every human has the same amount of potential. We all may have grown up in different parts of the world with different families that raised us and received different educations, but with a functioning brain and a heart that still beats, we all still have the ability to become whatever we put our minds to. So why do some people continue to have more, give more, and become more, while others have a tough time keeping their heads above water and constantly struggle? Why do some people exude confidence while others feel more and more awkward as the days go by? The answer became clear when I first heard Tony Robbins talk about what he calls his success cycle, which states that potential leads to action, which produces results and reinforces beliefs. So in the book here, I have a picture of what that cycle looks like. If you really want to see it, just Google Tony Robbins' success cycle. This cycle can be used in any area of our lives to either build us up or tear us down. Before I had my breakthrough, which I'll talk about in the next chapter, I was using the cycle in a very unsuccessful way with my shyness. Here's what it looked like for me. Potential. I would remind myself daily that since I'd always been a shy and reserved person, I would always be like that. I was born that way. It was genetic, and there's nothing I can do. That's just the way it was. Action. I rarely introduced myself or tried to make new friends. I would sit near the back of the class and pray that I wouldn't be noticed. And I chose shifts at work where I would be isolated with the least amount of interaction as possible. Result. I would get extremely uncomfortable and wouldn't know what to say in daily conversations. Belief. My brain would say, "See, I told you you're awkward and shy." Wash, rinse, repeat. That would strengthen my belief and fear, so I'd live out my own self-fulfilling prophecy. Having this belief was detrimental to my growth. Because I believed I was inherently shy, I rarely bothered to try to change. And when I did try to overcome my shyness and it didn't work, that just confirmed my belief that something was inherently wrong with me or it was a genetic fault within my brain. What's the solution? As much as I wish I could, it's simply not possible for me to give you more potential, make you take more action, give you better results, and strengthen your belief in yourself. Luckily, the obstacle that's been holding you back from expressing your true self is also your opportunity. I shared with you my story of hitting rock bottom at the beginning of the chapter because it's moments like these when we decide enough is enough that we really start to actually make a change. It would be great if we could sit around and wait until the day came that we suddenly magically developed a confidence muscle and instantly we're more confident and comfortable around other people. But you and I both know that life isn't like that. The answers to all of your problems already live within you. You just need to bring them to the surface. Using your imagination for all the right reasons. Whether you realize it or not, your mind is constantly envisioning and creating what your future is going to be. What you and I are going to do together is to start replacing more positive images than negative ones in your mind's highlight reel. We must become certain in our mind about who we are becoming long before it actually happens. Have you heard the story of Roger Bannister? Before 1954, no one had ever run a mile in less than 4 minutes. It was believed by most that the task was simply impossible. Up until that year, the fastest time recorded was 4:01, and the general consensus was that the human body simply wasn't designed to go any faster than that. The difference between Roger and the rest of the world was that he was certain he could do it, and he would imagine himself crossing that line in less than 4 minutes. His opportunity came on May 6, 1954, when he finished with a time of 3:59.4 and became the first man to ever break the 4-minute barrier. The amazing part about the story is that 46 days later, another man broke the 4-minute mark. And since that day, thousands of people have run under 4 minutes, including many high school athletes. I'm not asking you to run a mile in less than 4 minutes, nor am I suggesting you become a reality TV celebrity or professional public speaker. What I'm asking and challenging you to do is to open up to the idea of believing in your potential and what's possible by visualizing yourself as the person you want to become. Several studies have proven the positive benefits of visualization. Dr. Maxwell Maltz stated that if a person's imagination is vivid and detailed enough, it literally tricks their nervous system into thinking that what they visualize is actually real. If every day you give yourself at least 5 to 10 minutes to visualize yourself becoming the confident person you want to become, it will become easier for you to act that way in public. When you visualize, you're drafting a blueprint of the person you want to become. You're experiencing what it feels like to act confidently in social situations. Then when it actually happens, it's easier because you've already rehearsed the scenario in your mind and know exactly what it feels like. This is how you can prepare for a social event because you've already done it in your mind and visualized it going well. Quickly going off the script, and as we're talking about visualization and morning routines, what I do is a very simple, effective 10-minute priming exercise that I learned from Tony Robbins, where you focus on your breath, focus on what you're thankful for, you focus on just those small things, and you also add visualization to that. If you want to learn more about it, simply just Google Tony Robbins priming. It's like the first one on there. You can do the guided one at first until you feel comfortable doing it by yourself for 10 minutes. Now, many other people believed in me before I believed in myself. And now I'm asking you to make room for the person you want to become. And you will have your Chapter 3, Breakthrough. 6 months had gone by after reading Control the Crazy, and my life looked, well, pretty much the exact same. I was feeling a little bit better from my healthier new habits I was developing. I'd cut back on my drinking, and I was more focused on my classes. Yet, despite these subtle changes, I was still scared to talk to people. I had no idea I was about to experience my first major breakthrough in life. The spring semester was coming to an end, and my roommates had decided to go home for the summer to work. Since I had failed a handful of classes that year, I didn't have a choice other than staying in town to play catch-up and continue working at the campus recreation center. With my best friends gone and the apartment to myself, I had to make some friends, or I was going to spend the next 3 months with my good buddies, Netflix and Xbox. Then it happened. It was a day just like any other. I was handing out towels and locks to the guests, and then for some strange reason, even to this day, I don't know where it came from, and in an instant, I experienced a jolt of energy that rushed through my body. I don't know why, but I started initiating conversations with my coworkers and the afternoon gym goers. I was smiling, laughing, asking questions, giving compliments, making new friends, and it was exhilarating. But where the hell was this coming from? I didn't give myself enough time to ponder this question like I usually would have, and I just went with the flow. It was like I felt like a whole new person in that day, in that instant. And the next few hours flew by. My shift was coming to an end. I didn't want this thing to stop. I was having more fun than I had in a long time, and it was just a normal day at work. By the time I got home, I had a chance to reflect. I was feeling like Bradley Cooper's character, Eddie Mora, in the movie Limitless, of course, minus the magic pill. I experienced a natural high from in-depth conversations, and I knew my life would never be the same. I was hooked. The rest of the summer was truly transformative. Each new day, each new person, every new conversation was an opportunity to learn and challenge my fear. I began making new friends at work and in my classes. These were people I saw almost every day, but was always too afraid to go beyond the small talk. I was changing. I started going to parties and having fun, and here's the thing, doing that without drinking too much alcohol. What a crazy concept. And I just started going on adventures around the city of Eugene. I was open to anything and everything, but felt most alive from simply enjoying a long, honest conversation with new friends. I remember specifically this one. This is off topic quickly, but my buddy Duke and I, we had talked, we had just a really good conversation for about an hour. And afterwards, we went to meet up with friends, and we were just like so giggly, that just like natural high. I don't know how else to explain it, but it was such a good feeling. Now, for the first time, I was excited about going to work and class. The story in my mind was slowly shifting from I'm so awkward and weird and always will be shy, to, you know what, I've got nothing to lose. Life is too short to hide in my little shell, and you know what, I actually really enjoy talking to people. I started to believe that maybe, just maybe, I could overcome the shyness that had held me back for so long. My dad was a people person, and I'd always wanted to be more like him in that way. And this was the first time that I started to think it really was possible. New questions started entering my mind each day that I had never thought of before, such as, what else am I afraid of? I rationalized, if I could conquer this fear of opening up and talking, I could do anything. I started to bring those fears to the surface and went after them one by one. All of my self-constructed obstacles started to become, again, opportunities. As I mentioned before, I'd always wanted to be a college athlete. The challenge was that I quit the sport I was actually good at, which is swimming, when I was 12 years old to pursue basketball and soccer. I loved basketball, I just wasn't really good at it. Most colleges aren't interested in an undersized, underskilled kid who played JV for 3 years and then rode the bench his senior year. But I knew I was a good swimmer. And with this newfound belief that anything is possible, I became extremely curious as to what it would take to earn a spot on a college team. This dream was starting to take hold of me, and I couldn't shake it off. You and your breakthrough. By now, I hope you're thinking, okay, all this is great, Eric, but how am I going to overcome my shyness? Whether it's overcoming shyness, expressing more of your true self, improving your social skills, or literally any area of your life, a breakthrough is what will take your life to the next level. One more thing before we dissect how to create a breakthrough. I said it before and I'll say it again. This book is about taking action. Otherwise, you'll continue to bounce around from book to book, seminar to seminar, opportunity to opportunity, always looking for the answer when the answer is already inside of you. Let's bring it to life. What exactly is a breakthrough? A breakthrough is the moment you declare, I can never go back to who I was, and you begin to embrace your new path. Chances are good that you've already had experience at least one major breakthrough in your life to this point. Maybe it's when you decided you'd never smoke another cigarette or ever eat fast food again. Maybe it was when you forgave someone who you'd been holding a grudge against for years. Whatever it was, something shifted in you, and your life was never the same after that. Understand the power and limitations of your story. We all have a story circulating in our minds about who we are and what we're capable of. To have a voice in your mind doesn't make you crazy, it makes you human. The story that you carry with yourself each day is shaping your perception of the world. I can and I will give you strategies and techniques to come out of your shell and become a confident communicator. But if the story in the back of your mind keeps repeating, yeah, but this just isn't for me. It may work for others, but not me. If that's your thought and your belief, then you'll remain stuck until you change that story. The difference between those who are social, outgoing, confident in everyday conversations compared to those who feel timid, insecure, and reserved, and trust me, I've been on both sides of that, it simply comes down to the thoughts that each person believes in with absolute certainty. Let me repeat that. It comes down to the thoughts that each person believes in with absolute certainty. So what's the story that's perpetuating in your mind? Is it empowering you or does it bring you down? Does it give you energy or does it make you want to hide? If your best friend talked to you the way that you talk to yourself, would you still want to be their friend? As I shared earlier, the never-ending thoughts in my mind at that time were, I'm shy, I'm awkward, people think I'm weird, I better not speak up, make a fool of myself. Whether these thoughts were true or not was completely up to me, so I was living my self-fulfilling prophecy. To change the story in my mind, I started practicing a technique that I'd learned from meditation. You can use this too. I would observe my thoughts as if they were clouds passing through my head. If that cloud made me feel good, I would let it stick around. If it didn't make me feel good, I would just simply let it float on by and out the other ear. We become the thoughts that we consistently focus on and attach our emotions to. Instead of repeating in your mind, I just don't want to be shy anymore, I'm challenging you to focus on what you want, not what you don't want. Again, I want you to focus on what you want, not what you don't want. When that thought cloud that says, I'm a social person and it's easy for me to make friends sneaks into your mind, make space for it and let it hang out for a while. Wait, Eric, isn't this that classic BS positive thinking crap? No, my friend, this is psychology. Energize your thoughts. Just like the stories that shape our perception, our daily energy level, or state of mind, creates how we interpret the world around us. It's difficult to act confident and strike up a conversation if you're feeling timid and afraid on the inside. You'll psych yourself out before you even have a chance. Think about your mind as if it were a thermostat. Let's say that over the years you've found that you feel comfortable setting your thermostat at 72 degrees. Now every day, good things happen that make your internal temperature rise up, and bad things will happen that cause a drop in the temperature. But you will always find a way back to your comfortable, laid back 72 degrees. To overcome your shyness with a higher energy when talking to people, you're going to need to manually reset your thermostat to 75 degrees, or whatever, just an example. That will take effort. Your mind isn't going to like this because that's not what it's habitually used to, and it will make you feel uncomfortable at first. But guess what? You control your thermostat. It doesn't control you. So how do we control our energy level? With our bodies. Positive emotion is created by motion. All of the latest research will agree that we can change our biochemistry and physiology with movement. Don't get me wrong, I'm not suggesting that you start doing squats before you shake someone's hand and start a conversation. Unless that's your thing, then go for it. I'm suggesting that you start creating daily habits that get your body moving and put you in a heightened state of mind each day. You and I both know that trying to talk to ourselves and doing something just doesn't work. We've got to move the body and energize our thoughts. The goal is to become aware when your energy level starts to drop and find your strategy to bring it back up on a daily, moment-to-moment basis. Putting it all together. Your breakthrough will come when you have a heightened state of mind with an exciting new story that you believe in. Remember what we talked about at the beginning of this chapter. It happens in a moment. The cool part is that you get to decide when that moment happens. It can literally occur as soon as you put this book down, or it could happen a year from now when you finally give yourself permission to change. The decision is up to you. And as you do, you'll start Chapter 4, Expanding Your Identity. We've talked a lot so far about all these changes that you're either seeking, experiencing, or that you will be experiencing soon in the pursuit of overcoming your shyness. Let's not forget that change is inevitable, no matter what. What we're really after here is growth and expansion to become more of your true self. I don't think there's anything wrong with you in the first place, and I don't want you to trick yourself into believing that there is. This journey isn't about changing your identity, it's about expanding your identity. This is about bringing out the social, playful, passionate person that you are, and that requires digging past the fears, discovering your potential, experiencing your breakthrough to get there. My leap of faith. As that unforgettable summer was coming to an end, I knew it was time to start making some new plans. For the first time in a long time, I had the courage to dream about what I truly wanted. I didn't have all the answers, but I was sure of these 3 things. 1, I wanted to live somewhere warm. 2, I wanted to become a college swimmer. 3, I wanted to start my own adventure. With a whole lot of enthusiasm and determination, it wasn't long until I found my answer. I decided it was time to leave my nest and comfort zone in Oregon and transfer down to a small school in sunny California. I should note that I'd always wanted to live in California, but the thoughts that came to me were like, it's too expensive, it's too far away from home, all these things. But I finally had that courage to go after it. Anyway, it was the same school that my older sister graduated from, so it wasn't completely random. and I was ready for a fresh start. Transfer deadlines were approaching, and I didn't exactly have an extra thousands of dollars for tuition, but in my mind, it didn't matter. I was going to do whatever it took to make it happen. It's amazing how fast you can overcome your fear of talking to someone on the phone or asking for help when your dreams become bigger than your fears. 1 month later, my car was packed and I was ready to go. The freedom to be myself. Bliss. Pure bliss and liberation circulated through my body as I made a 2-day road trip toward my new life. I hadn't felt that free and relaxed since I was a kid. I remember thinking on the drive, I can be whoever I want to be. No one there knows who I've been. This is incredible. Have you ever had that feeling? It's empowering and exciting to know that you can create a new life for yourself at any time. It does not require transferring schools or moving to somewhere new. All we really need to do is to make that decision and commit to it. As I settled into my dorm and got situated, I didn't waste any time getting involved with my new community. This urgency was partially fueled by fear. I was more afraid of not making friends, basically becoming a loner, than of actually being rejected. Within the first 2 weeks, I earned a spot on the swim team. I joined student government, and I got a job working at the front desk in a dorm. For all 3 of these activities, I had one primary motive: make friends and have fun. I acted as if I'd been a social person my whole life, and for the first time, it was easy and happened effortlessly. Again, I'm going off the script here for a second, but that just reminded me of one of the student government events we put on, which the student government was really more of just like a planning events and activities for the school. But there's this one event, and we had a reporter from the school there, and he was kind of, isolated, not really talking to anyone. And I remember a few people saying, "Hey, Eric, go over there, and talk up, chat up with that guy. Just make him feel more comfortable. You're the social one of the group." And hearing that, I was like, what the heck? Like, it was, again, expanding my identity. It was finding out things about myself I hadn't even known yet. So anyway, I was only able to stay at that school for 1 semester, so it was really more just like a study abroad, because I wasn't able to get enough loans or scholarship to cover the expenses. But I will always cherish those 3 months as some of the most vital towards my growth as a person. I developed lifelong friendships. I became a college athlete, fulfilled that dream, and honestly, I just faced my biggest fears on a daily basis. So internally, I was content. I was ready for my next adventure. The biggest surprise from that experience was a passion that I never knew I had, and I really doubt I ever would have realized it if I hadn't tried new things and got out of my comfort zone. If you want to become more confident and achieve your goals in life, sooner or later, you're going to have to get out of that comfort zone, put yourself in situations where you can potentially be rejected, but from which you will grow and you'll learn. Just trust me on this one. It's so worth it. Robert Allen, the author of 1 Millionaire, wrote, "Everything you want in your life is just outside of your comfort zone." Getting out of your comfort zone is when the real magic happens. Yes, it can be painful and uncomfortable at times, but it's like getting into a cold shower. When you finally make the plunge, the water stings for a few seconds, but then you get used to it and you actually start to enjoy it. Afterwards, you feel awake and refreshed. It's exactly the same with trying new things, getting out of your comfort zone, and expanding your identity. Going back to discovering that passion that I mentioned earlier, it was during one of our weekly Monday night meetings, the student body president asked me to share my story and give a little pep talk at the end of the meeting each week. She was going to call it Motivational Mondays with Erik, and to be honest, it scared the living daylight out of me. So of course, since it scared me and it was way out of my comfort zone, I decided to give it a go. That first Monday night, I opened up and shared what had led me to moving down to California. I felt my spirit come to life, and I was absolutely energized by that challenge. That night, I discovered my passion for inspiring others through stories. Before that night, if you had told me that I was going to become a public speaker, I would have called you crazy. and checked you into a mental hospital for treatment. Side note, before we moved out here to Maui, Hawaii, where my wife is from, I did a speech in front of, I think, over 500 or 600 people, and it was the most exhilarating, scary moment of my life, but I look back at it with absolute gratitude. So back to the script. Maybe you already know what you're most passionate about or what your life's calling is, or maybe you feel like you're looping in circles with no direction or purpose. Here's the thing. If you believe your shyness has been holding you back, then it's time for us to get to work. Let's dig deep and bring out more of your true self. Since your goal here is to no longer be shy, then we need to start thinking about what your life will be like when you're confident. I believe that you have the talents, insight, and skills within you, and you're just not aware of them yet. The main way that you're going to bring your uniqueness to life is by setting exciting new goals and heading in a new direction. You need to do this mindfully, purposefully. If all we can think about is overcoming shyness, we'll stay trapped in that lower level of energy and fail to rise up to the next level. Only once we start to focus on more of what we really want, our brain can begin to find the answers for us. My whole life started to change, and I discovered confidence in my social skills once I began to follow and trust my heart. Yes, I know that's cliche, but it's the honest truth. And I'm absolutely certain that the same can happen for you once you decide to follow yours. Goal setting that doesn't suck. You're going to enjoy the end of this chapter because I'm giving you permission to dream like you used to dream when you were a kid. It's very important to go through this exercise with a no limits attitude. Think in terms of what you really want, not merely what you believe is possible yet. Inspired ideas and actions derive from inspiring dreams. So dream big and don't hold back. Yes, I mean it. Don't hold back here. You're going to have a lot of fun with this. But before we start, make sure you're in a great state of mind. Not a good state of mind, not an average state, but you should be nearly bouncing off the walls because you're so excited. Start doing some jumping jacks, do a little dance, turn on the music, whatever it takes, get that energy up. Let's go. Okay, let's grab a pen, journal, and find some space where you can just be by yourself and play some light music in the background if you think that would help. Number 1, become clear on what you want. Set a timer for 30 minutes. Make a list of 50 goals, 50 goals you have for your life. Long-term, short-term goals, personal goals, family goals, health goals, spiritual goals, business goals, career goals, financial goals, social goals, hobby goals, everything in between. Again, no limits here. Since our objective of this book is to overcome shyness that's been holding us back, it's important to include the goal of this new social, confident, peaceful person that you intend to become. But don't limit yourself there. Don't hold back and don't stop the 30 minutes until the 30 minutes has ended. If you have more than 50, no problem. That's fine. Just make sure you have at least 50. If not, take time to make more. Okay, let's begin. Start that timer. Number 2, your top 5. Before we go on, make sure, have you done that? Have you made that list of 50? They might be in your head, but until they're on paper, that's when it becomes real. And there's science and there's study that will back me up on that. Okay, number 2, your top 5. From those 50 goals, choose 5 of them that are the most exciting to you. That's how you know you've got the right ones. Trust your energy, how you feel in your body, and it should scare you a little bit. At least one of those goals should be reflective of the social, confident person that you're becoming during the journey. Once you've chosen your 5, find images that represent what that goal looks like to you. Go on Google Images, start searching them, whatever it takes. Okay, number 3, make it real. Again, if you haven't picked out your top 5 yet, make sure you do that. If you haven't made your list of 50 yet, go back and do it. Remember, this book is about taking action, not just skimming it, reading through it, take action. Okay, number 3, make it real. Now we're going to bring those images to life and print them out. You can either make a vision board or use note cards, or both if you want. Strategically place those cards or your vision board in locations where you'll see them every day. For example, I have my note cards next to my bed So right before I go to sleep and right when I wake up, I look at those images, I feel them, they're on their way, and I surround myself with them. Okay, number 4, attach affirmations. If you haven't done the first 3 steps, make sure to do those, otherwise you're wasting your time here. Attach affirmations. For each goal, you're going to write down an affirmation as if the goal has already happened, or that you're in the process of making it happen. You may be thinking, again, isn't this that hocus pocus, positive thinking crap? And again, I'm going to tell you no, it's psychology. It's been proven, especially by athletes. Many athletes do this. The more specific that you can become about exactly what you want, when you want it, the better chances your brain can provide those answers. Effective affirmations are positive statements charged with a feeling. Again, charged with a feeling, written in the present tense, or again, if it's in the process of happening, beginning with I am. So, for example, I am a confident, vibrant person who loves to socialize. Or you can twist on it. I like to say, I am in the process of becoming a confident, vibrant person who loves to socialize. Because then you're not really BSing yourself. If you say it like this, I'm a confident, vibrant person who loves to socialize. Your brain is like, BS, no way, buddy. I know that you're full of it. But if you can say it with emotion and, really put your energy into it, use your body, I am in the process of becoming a confident, vibrant person who loves to socialize. That's a lot more believing. And then you're going to create that momentum to back it up. Okay, number 5, with our goal setting that doesn't suck. See, feel, and believe them every single day. The purpose of setting goals isn't the attainment of the goal itself. It's who you must become in the process in order to be worthy of the desired outcome. What we're doing here to our subconscious mind, when we look at each image, affirm it with certainty, energy, remember, and feel that in our body, is we're creating the emotion and belief we associate with that goal, which strengthens a magnetic force within you and guides you to where you need to be. The reason why affirmations don't work for many people is that they fail to create the energy. Again, you can see I'm all about the energy associated with the goal. Don't be a boring adult here while you affirm these statements. Read or say them out loud with energy, passion, and joy. Place the note cards or vision board near your bed so you can look at the images and read them first thing in the morning right before you go to bed. Did I mention here you need to add some energy? Okay, you must be wondering, why the heck am I setting goals, Eric? I thought we were talking about overcoming my shyness. Great question. In the same way that a smoker can't stop smoking or won't stop smoking until he or she creates a new habit to replace it, you won't be able to overcome your shyness unless you're focused on projects and goals that you'll be too excited about to make you shy. Do you see what I'm saying here? So if you're only focused on your shyness, you're always going to remain stuck there. If you're focused on your future, who you're becoming, it'll dwindle away. I know this sounds strange, but I've experienced my own life, and if I can do it, I know for sure, for certain, that you can do it too. Once you've set your goals and place them where you'll see and feel them every day, it's time for you to Chapter 5, get real and move on. Okay, this is your personal checkpoint. Before we continue further or start taking the action that will create long-term and lasting change with your back pocket tips, we must assess where we are and get real with ourselves. Remember, I didn't experience a breakthrough and start the process of overcoming my shyness until months after journaling, reading new books, and seeking out professional help from a counselor. I won't ever forget how free I felt after each counseling session I had. I'm going to go off topic for a second here. I remember specifically, it was after maybe the second it was like after a few weeks of it, I was walking back home after that, and I just felt this tremendous liberation, all this energy that had been holding me back, all this weight on my shoulders was just lifted up just by, talking it out with this counselor. Okay, let's go back to the script. At that time, I didn't feel comfortable sharing what I said in my counseling sessions with my girlfriend or close friends or even my family. I needed to express my true emotions and thoughts to someone who didn't know me. Otherwise, I would have held back. Right here, right now, I'm giving you permission to let it all out. How to let it out. These are two of the best methods, from my experience, to express yourself so you can move forward. Professional counseling or writing your thoughts out in a journal. If you don't yet feel comfortable talking to someone about what's really going on inside you, just write it out. It's free and the benefits can be just as effective. Again, set a timer for 30 minutes and simply just write whatever comes to mind. Don't hold back, don't stop writing. Make sure you do this with a pen and paper rather than digitally. But if you insist on doing digitally, that's fine. It's just you'll get more out of it, pen and paper. Anyway, start doing this every day, at least three times per week to build up the momentum. Journaling is one of the most important tools to get real with yourself because it forces you to collect your thoughts, impressions, dreams, experiences, and feelings, organize them, clarify them, and express them in a way that often results in profound insights that can change your way of thinking and acting. Journal writing is the easiest type of writing because it doesn't involve anyone but yourself. You're the only reader here. So you don't have to worry about grammar, punctuation, logic, content, anything like that. You can write whatever's on your mind and heart without any hesitancy because you won't be offending anyone or embarrassing yourself. You can really let the creative juices flow here. The journal becomes your map to self-discovery. In a hectic pace of modern life, it gives you an opportunity to stop and reflect on the meaning of events and circumstances in your life. It engages you in a conversation with yourself about important issues in your life. Together, these strengthen your identity and your ability to process life experiences in a positive manner. The rules of keeping a journal can be distilled down to these three simple principles. Number 1, date each entry. At the time you write, it doesn't matter if you add the date, but when you look back on that journal later in life, it helps you keep things in perspective. Number 2, write when and how you want. Draw out your feelings at times to give journaling variety and interest. Also, if you force yourself to write, the writing will become dry. It's better to just take a break with writing than force yourself to write when you don't want to. Number 3, always tell the truth. I'm going to say that one more time. Always tell the truth. Be honest with yourself. Why bother to write if you're not going to be honest? The following tips help you gain a momentum on keeping a journal. You can write at a specific time each day, preferably when you know you won't be disturbed, or you can write a specific amount, pages or minutes, anything like that. The important thing is that you write every day, or again 3 times per week, until you've let it all out. If you're ready to talk to a counselor, seek out local professionals. If you're still in school, high school or college, or even middle school, chances are that you have access to someone like this for free or at a very low rate. The bonus to talking to someone like this is that they'll listen and be able to offer solutions to guide you in the right direction. We're coming to the end of the first half of the book, which has been mostly about mindset so far. Before we move on to the second half, in which you'll learn about the back pocket tips and start harnessing their power, we need to discuss a truth that can be hard to face. Chapter 6, Who You Spend Time With is Who You Become. Remember when we were younger and our parents, teachers, coaches would warn us and say, I don't think it's good for you to be spending so much time with so-and-so. He or she is a bad influence on you. If you were like me, you probably ignored their advice and hung out with that person anyway. Well, it turns out that they were onto something. Dang it. Personal development guru Jim Rohn famously said, you become the 5 people you spend the most time with. Choose carefully. Have you been choosing carefully lately? Going off the script real quick, I remember the first time that my older sister shared that idea with me is when I first heard it. And as she said it, it was like a brick just, dropping on my head. It was like, wow, that is so true. So maybe you've heard it before, maybe this is the first time you're hearing it. Either way, I think it puts it helps give you perspective, on where you truly are. So either those 5 people are stretching and challenging you to become a social and confident person, or their complacency and shyness is rubbing off on you. And it doesn't mean they're a bad person. It's just the way it is. So whether you like it or not, you're always being influenced by people whom you choose to spend time with. I'm not saying it's completely their responsibility for who you're becoming, because ultimately you're the one who decided to spend time with them. They're just behaving in the best way that they know how. People change and friends come and go. You don't have to stay friends with people who are constantly putting you down or keeping you stuck in bad habits and negative thinking. Take a look at your current friends, relatives, role models, and ask yourself if these people are good for you. If not, limit the amount of time that you spend with them. See, I love my buddies from college, and I still keep up with them to this day. But at that time, I knew I wouldn't be able to keep up with that lifestyle for very long before I'd find myself back at the bridge. Ultimately, that meant I had to distance myself from them for a while, and that was really tough. Like I said, this part of the change process isn't as easy to do as some of the other strategies that we'll talk about later. I'm not suggesting that you start completely cutting people out of your life, but it's important to start becoming more aware of the people that you spend time with and make the conscious effort to surround yourself with those who will influence you to become who you want to be. Hang out with people with the same goals as you, who will be supportive and non-judgmental. And again, going off topic, it's good to have those people who don't think the same way you do or don't have the same beliefs. It's good to hear different opinions and to balance ourselves that way. So I'm not suggesting that you surround yourself only with people that think the way you do. Surround yourself with a variety of different people. I'm just saying become aware of where you're investing the majority of your time, because that's who you're becoming. How do others influence us? Because of our human desire to connect and bond, we adopt the philosophy, habits, attitudes, standards, and lifestyles of those around us. We like people who are like us, right? If most of your friends believe that people are scary and social situations are awkward and weird, it's no surprise that you, most likely, will think this way too. On the other hand, however, what if you had the type of friends who loved meeting new people and diving deep into conversations? How would you think differently? Which of your beliefs would change? How would you perceive others on a daily basis? This was a huge shift for me. I had always been afraid to speak up or introduce myself because I believed that others would judge me, and that's probably because I was constantly judging myself the whole time. But when I started opening up and spending more time with social people, I learned that people aren't that scary at all. By observing my extroverted friends spark up conversations, I saw how good it made others feel to be recognized. Most of us walk around each day with an invisible sign around our necks that says, "Hey, notice me! Make me feel important or special." Social people naturally use the camera out technique, and it's become a habit for them to start and engage in conversations. Surrounding yourself with social people is so powerful because you adapt their level of consciousness. It doesn't take a whole lot of willpower since you're subconsciously picking up their patterns and behavior. Find mentors and role models. Like I mentioned earlier, you don't want to simply start cutting off those people from your life who you don't believe are contributing to your growth. Everyone, and I mean everyone, has something special about them. And you, yes you, have the power to bring that uniqueness out of them. You'll need to make the conscious effort to start surrounding yourself with mentors and role models who exemplify the characteristics that you want. There are two types of people that you want to connect with: direct and indirect mentors. Direct mentors are the people that you already know, or at least you have access to, who possess the skills and attitudes that you want to adopt. This could be a leader at your job, coach, teacher, community leader, or even a peer or friend. If you're having a tough time thinking of people like this near you, don't worry. We live in the greatest time in human history for connecting with like-minded people, and at the end of this chapter, I'll show you how to find them instantly. Indirect mentors are people you aspire to become like and have a lot of respect for. It doesn't matter if this person is dead or alive, lives close to you, or in another country. It could be a professional athlete, artist, author, speaker, philanthropist, entrepreneur, or anyone else. There are no limits here. I believe that I became so hooked on reading and listening to audios from successful people after reading Control the Crazy, because it just felt like we were sitting in the same room next to each other, and he or she was giving me all of their secrets to life. I didn't have to go out and learn all of life's lessons on my own through my own experiences. I could learn from them, and you have that same opportunity. Join our community. There's strength in community that can help you overcome problems that would seem insurmountable on your own. Look at the success of the 12-step program and group therapy. To overcome shyness, it's essential to find a community of people who have the same goals and understand how you feel. These people do exist, and they're looking forward to meeting you on Facebook. I invite you to come and join our online community. In the process of writing this book, I also created the Overcoming Shyness community group on Facebook. I encourage you to request to join the group. The link is facebook.com/groups/overcoming-shyness and get plugged in right away. Again, that link is facebook.com/groups/overcoming-shyness. In here, we share videos, articles, ideas to help each other out. More importantly, it's a chance to meet other people who can relate and connect with you. This is positive peer pressure at its finest. And all that it's missing right now, my friend, is you. See you in the group. Section 2, Your Back Pocket Tips. Chapter 7, The Power of Your Pearly Whites. We made it. The first section of the book can be difficult because it requires us to take a good hard look at ourselves in the mirror, and it's not always easy to see what's really going on. Now I'm going to share with you the exact tips and strategies you can use out in the real world to break out and conquer your shyness once and for all. These aren't just theories, these are trial-tested tactics proven through my own and many others' experience. Let's use a sports analogy. Think about this time that you spend listening to the audiobook each day as your practice. So when you're not listening to it, it's game time. In the game, or real life, you get to put these strategies to work and try them out. You may make mistakes, and that's totally okay. Be open and patient with yourself and trust that with practice and persistence, you'll continue to improve. We're focused on progress, not perfection. Now let's lace up, buckle down, we've got work to do. And side point, this mindset, this technique, these strategies, you can apply that to literally any area of your life. We don't always start off, we want to start off as experts, but we've got to humble ourselves, allow ourselves to be beginners, and learn through trial and error, keep pushing forward. Okay, let's jump back into it. From super shy to smiles for miles. One of my first classes when I got down to my new school in Southern California was Spanish 102 at 8 o'clock in the morning, 4 days a week. Most college students aren't too thrilled about learning a new language, let alone right after the sun has risen, and I was no exception. But I was also in the honeymoon phase of overcoming my shyness, and a crazy idea came to me during the first week. On a 5-minute walk from my dorm to the class, I would typically pass 15 to 25 people. One morning, for whatever reason, I decided that I would simply smile at each person as I walked by. You can imagine the thoughts that popped up in my head the first couple of days of doing this. You look like such a fool. Stop smiling, you idiot. People are going to think you're so weird. Whenever those thoughts would arise, I would remind myself of the ideas that I've been learning from Control the Crazy. I would shift my focus back to my breath and look for the next person I could share a smile with. To my surprise, 99% of people would smile back. That gave me the satisfaction that maybe, even for just a moment, I had the power to make someone else's day a little bit better. After a couple weeks of my new smiling routine, I was ready to take this challenge to the next level. I started to add a good morning to each person, student, professor walking by. Again, it blew my mind what a positive response I would get back from people. You might be thinking, well, duh, Eric, of course people would respond that way. Well, here's where that new little habit became transformative for me. By the time I would get to that Spanish class, after my 5-minute fear-crushing walk, I would feel really good. For the first time in, ever, I was raising my hand in class, making new friends, and not hiding in the back of the room. Conquering my fear started with a smile. Yes, a simple smile. And here's how I can do the same for you. The science of a smile. As oversimplistic and as elementary as this first strategy is, it has the power to boost your confidence instantly, and research will back this up. You can find hundreds of studies that provide evidence for the benefits of smiling, even when you don't feel like it. But to me, it comes down to one simple truth. We can't feel good and feel bad at the same time. It's just not possible. The author of the book titled Smile, Secrets of the Healing Power of Your Smile, wrote that your mental and emotional state is affected by the state of your body and vice versa. So if you make change in one, you can make change in the other because there's a mind, body, spirit continuum. Smiling breaks your pattern of negative thoughts and forces your brain to start searching for memories, ideas, and events that make you feel good, unquote. We can't expect to confidently talk to people if we just don't feel good on the inside. Up to this point, I would guess that you associate pain and uncomfortable feelings with talking to people. It's only human nature for us to avoid pain and increase pleasure. It's easier to remain quiet and keep our thoughts to ourselves. I know, trust me. But remember when we talked earlier about creating your breakthrough, we agreed that you would need to change your state of mind. Nothing will change your state faster than smiling, even if you need to force it at first. The cold, chilly truth. I'll let you in on a little not-so-secret of mine. I'm one of those crazy people who wake up too early, not because I have to, but because I like to. And it's an extremely empowering feeling to take control of my thoughts and my mind first thing in the morning. No matter how long I've been doing this, I never, ever feel like getting out of my warm, cozy bed at 4 o'clock in the morning. But I've conditioned my brain to do this by the 3-2-1 strategy that we'll talk about in chapter 11. After I do my zombie walk over to the bathroom, the first thing I do is brush my teeth and jump into a cold shower. Yes, you heard that correctly. I brush my teeth and then I jump into a freezing cold shower. Right before the freezing cold water splashes on my face, I force a great big smile. I probably look like a crazy person, but it moves me into action. After the initial shock wears off and I'm able to catch my breath, I feel amazing. It's not as crazy as the Polar Bear Club when people plunge into ice cold water, but it has a similar health benefits such as improved circulation, decreased depression, healthier skin and hair, strengthened immune system, increased testosterone, increased fertility, and greater energy and well-being. However, if you have high blood pressure, it's not advised to take cold showers as they constrict blood vessels. So again, make sure if you're going to try this out, talk to your doctor about doing it first. Okay, back to the script. In the same way, I take a social plunge each day. Yes, a social plunge. When I'm in a social situation where I know I could potentially become fearful and anxious, I make the conscious effort to start smiling. Instantly, my stress is reduced, and I'm able to stay in the moment instead of being trapped in my mind, to keep my camera out and engaged in the conversation. You might think, well, yeah, but I don't want to be a phony person by faking smiles for the rest of my life. Well, touche, my friend. But I'm willing to bet that after forcing a smile on your face for 5 seconds, it won't be fake anymore. You'll actually start to feel better and it will transform into a real smile. Doing this, you'll start to give off a different type of energy when you walk around with a smile. Not only will you feel good, but you'll start to make others feel good too. Win-win. Your vibe attracts your tribe. As you start to smile more, you'll notice that people will begin initiating conversations with you more often because they're attracted to your good vibes and become curious about what makes you so happy. Although this is something that might have terrified us before, now we've got nothing to fear. And in chapter 10, I'll give you the most practical advice for what to say when you get to that point. Carrying on through your day with a smile lets people know that you're safe. Instinctively, people want to protect themselves. And without words, your smile says, hey, it's okay, I'm safe, I'm not out to hurt you, buddy. Before I started consistently practicing the smile strategy, out of fear, I would walk around with low energy and very little expression on my face. Off topic real quick, that just reminded me of high school, where all throughout the day I would just have my hoodie on and I would just hide in my shell all day. So as a result, I was left alone, and I liked it that way because I believed that hiding in that little shell was easier than facing my fear and opening up to others. Okay, we can try to convince ourselves that we're happier by isolating ourselves from others and avoiding vulnerability, but my friend, it's just not the truth. We'll begin to connect with more people and experience life in a much more rich way and meaningful way when we smile and allow ourselves to be seen. Practice, practice, practice. As silly as this sounds, you're going to need to start practicing your smile on a daily basis. If you're not sure where to begin, without feeling like an absolute fool, start by practicing around your home. Smile when you're washing the dishes, smile when you're making coffee, smile when you're in the shower, smile while you do your laundry, everything else. As often as possible, just smile. And here's another quick tip. Don't just use the muscles around your mouth to give a half-hearted smile. There are hundreds of muscles in the face. Use all of them and smile as big as possible. If you live with your spouse, family, or roommates, they will undoubtedly think that you are a crazy person at first. And that's okay. Let them borrow this audiobook and encourage them to take a few minutes to listen to this chapter so they understand why you're doing it. Once you're ready to take it to the next level, mindfully begin smiling when you go out to walk your dog, get the mail, take out the trash, everything else that's kind of in your proximity. Finally, start this smiling practice when you're at work, at school, on the bus, waiting in line, at a restaurant, everything else. This will feel awkward at first. Please remember this simple fact of life. Others aren't thinking about and judging you as much as you think they are. Again, let me repeat that. Others aren't thinking about and judging you as much as you think they are. Most people are too preoccupied in their own lives to be thinking about you. When I realized this, I was set free from my mind, and you can experience that same liberation. If your mind starts to give you every reason why you shouldn't practice smiling, thank it for its concern about your safety, and then give yourself permission to feel the incredible sensations of a big smile, and start to Chapter 8. Be aware of your body language. Similar to the smile muscles that you're practicing and developing, your second back pocket tip is your body language. Here's good news for people like you and me. 55% of communication is through our non-verbal cues. 38% is our voice inflection, leaving just 8% for the actual words we speak. If you're like me, you get worried that the words you speak are going to come out the wrong way. Knowing those percentages took away that pressure of getting the words right, so all I had to do was focus on improving my body language at first. I'm going to teach you a simple and easy to remember technique that you can use anytime in any social situation, and your confident body language will actually make you feel more confident. Are you ready? You do not want to miss this one. As easy as ABC. You're going to love these ABCs because you will see an immediate difference in the energy you bring to any conversation. It'll work if you're meeting someone for the first time, talking to your boss or professor, the group of friends, anything else. All you need to remember is ABCDE, which stands for A. Adjust your shoulders. B. Breathe deep and release. C. Clasp your hands. D. Display your smile. And E. Eye contact. I can't count how many times ABCDE has saved me in potentially uncomfortable social situations. Whenever my nerves start to rattle and my heart starts racing fast, I resort back to this powerful strategy. It only takes about 10 seconds, probably even less, 5 seconds at the most, to make this adjustment as you go through the sequence. Let's break it down one by one. Sound good? Adjust your shoulders. Allowing our shoulders to drop forward and slouch over gives the perception to others that we lack confidence, decisiveness, and even sincerity. Now, I know that you're a sincere person, but your body language might be suggesting something different. The answer is simple. All you need to do is stand up straight, pull your shoulders back, and open your chest. No need to go all Superman or Wonder Woman with this one, just a subtle little shift of the shoulders. Now, let me be completely honest with you. I've had an extremely tough time staying true to this habit. My wife, Dominique, is constantly reminding me to stand up straight and stop slouching. At first, this really bothered me. The male ego can be a pain in the ass for everyone at times. But she was absolutely right. And side note, number one rule of marriage, she is always right. I learned that one pretty quickly. But her reminders have helped me to progress. If your posture needs some work, I would suggest asking your partner, friend, coworker to call you out every time you're slouching. It'll make all the difference in the long run. Again, another side note, it was just the other day that Dominique reminded me again, hey, Erik, stop slouching over. So those constant reminders and having people like that who you can trust, who truly care about you, is truly vital. Breathe deep and release the tension and worry. Now that your shoulders are pulled back and your chest is open, take a deep breath through your nose, hold it for 4 seconds, and exhale on a long sigh. Then repeat that one more time. When you exhale, imagine all the tension in your body and worry in your mind being expelled. Little side note, in yoga, I like to inhale through the nose and visualize kind of like a white light, and then I exhale like a dark cloud, right? So inhale, 4 seconds, hold, exhale, big exhale, do that one more time. If you're all tight and tensed up, the person you're talking to will subconsciously recognize those cues and know that you're feeling uncomfortable. Take 2 deep breaths, and that will begin to calm your nerves and help you return to the present moment so you can stay focused on the person and conversation. Remember, camera out. C, clasp your hands. Do you ever feel like Will Ferrell's character, Ricky Bobby from Talladega Nights, and you find yourself thinking, I'm not sure what to do with my hands? Well, I do. A simple adjustment in the positioning of hands can make all the difference. One of the most common mindless habits that we have when talking to someone else is we become all fidgety with our hands. While talking, do you ever touch your face, eyes, hair? Do you ever adjust your clothes, jewelry, anything like that? Again, the person you're talking to will subconsciously recognize those cues and know that you're feeling uncomfortable. Although this part of the sequence is called clasp your hands, there are a couple different options you can choose from. However, as a general rule of thumb, I would recommend keeping your hands up by your chest when speaking and down by your lap while listening. As far as the positioning of your hands goes, you can either have them clasped together or in like a steeple pose position where your fingertips are touching. I like that steeple position because it gives off more of like a calm, collected, cool vibe, but ultimately it's up to you. D, display your smile. This one is self-explanatory. While listening to others speak, make that conscious effort to give a simple smile and nod accordingly. You want the person to feel that you're not just listening, but you're also engaged and interested. Put a smile on your face to feel good, help others feel good as well, and do it genuinely. E, eye contact. If you're like me and feel intimidated by the idea of looking at someone directly in the eyes in a conversation, I've got good news for you. You don't have to, at least at first. I'll explain what I mean by that in a moment. It's important to remember that in a conversation, the person you're talking to knows and feels that, again, you're genuinely interested in what they're saying, and the quickest way to gain trust is through eye contact. During my freshman year of high school, I remember one of the teachers instructing us on how to make eye contact. He suggested looking at the person's nose, lips, or in between their eyebrows until you feel comfortable making direct contact. This is a great place to start until you build up the courage to connect with their eyes. And once you do, don't feel like you have to maintain eye contact the whole time. You can go back to the nose or eyebrows anytime you feel like it. So now that you're smiling and exuding confident body language, you're in a great position to practice Chapter 9, the 3-foot rule. With more than half of the battle won by mastering your body language, it's time to utilize some of the back pocket tips that will help you actually, start talking to people. Chances are that if you're like me, you've become really good at avoiding conversations and hiding in your shell. Well, I've got good news for you. It's going to be a lot easier to start and carry on conversations than you originally thought. In no time, you can become a brilliant conversationalist with these simple, powerful techniques. The first tip to start carrying in your back pocket is the 3-foot rule. In simplistic terms, this means that you'll make the conscious effort to spark up a conversation with anyone that's within about 3 feet of you. If you've been shy most of your life, I know what you're thinking. This sounds scary. And it's okay to have that thought. But I want to encourage you to keep an open mind. Plus, I'm going to show you how this is going to be much more simple than you think. The danger of not talking to strangers. If your parents were like mine when you were a kid, they reminded you not to talk to strangers. This was great advice when we were young and naive, but we're not little kids anymore. In fact, if we don't talk to strangers, who are really just one conversation away from becoming a good friend, then we'll go through life struggling with our career, relationships, and overall happiness. One of the basic human needs is connection with others and the world around us. Trust me, I know how lonely and empty it feels when we don't have that connection. And I want to help you communicate your true self more effectively. You're probably asking, well, what am I going to say? The majority of us don't talk to people we don't know yet because we're afraid of what they might think of us, or we don't think we're going to know what to say. I'd bet that either just now or as you've been reading this or sometime in your life, you've thought about talking with someone but then instantly froze up as you tried to structure an opening sentence. I'm guilty of doing this so many times. I'm going to share with you a simple process that will guide you through executing the 3-foot rule. The 4 magic words. Are you ready to hear the absolute best proven opening line to start a conversation? Hey, how are you? What? That's it? Yeah, that's it. It's okay to be mad at me and be mad at how simple this is, but research will back it up. This is great news if you're worried about coming up with the perfect opening line. I learned this trick from Vanessa Van Edwards, who is a behavioral investigator for the science of people. My wife and I saw her keynote speech while at a conference in Nashville. During her talk, she said, "The opening line is easy and effective. Don't drive yourself crazy coming up with something clever or witty to say. This has worked for me 100% of the time." This referring to, hey, how are you? Those 4 words have stuck with me ever since then, and we've seen a huge difference when we started applying this to our 3-foot rule. Once you get the conversation, you're going to want to make sure to shake their hand. This isn't just custom or protocol, there's actual science behind it. As soon as your hands meet, both of you release oxytocin into your bodies, which will strengthen your bond. We won't dive too far into the handshake, though I encourage you to Google or YouTube it. But for the sake of simplicity, remember to keep your hands dry and your grip firm, neither too soft nor too aggressive. Next, introduce yourself. I like to keep my introduction as short and simple as possible so I can keep the conversation on the other person and learn about them. Hey, how's it going? What kind of workout are you doing today? And then introduce yourself, so on and so forth. If I were standing in line for coffee, I might just say something like, "Good morning, how's it going? I'm Erik. What's your go-to cup of coffee?" Once they respond, you continue to ask more questions. We have a whole chapter about this coming up soon. We'll talk about the power of questions. So you'll instinctively know when the best time is to shake their hand and introduce yourself. Don't get caught up in saying the right words. Remember, it's only 7% of communication. And following the process in a specific order. There's no specific order, right or wrong. Just make sure to start that conversation. Hey, how's it going? At some point, introduce yourself, shake their hand, so on, so forth. It's more important to simply get the conversation started than to say the perfect opening line. Let me repeat that one more time for emphasis. It's way more important to simply just get the conversation started than to have the perfect opening line. So now that you've broken the ice and done the toughest part of the 3-foot rule, there are a couple of tricks and tips that you can keep up your sleeve to keep the discussion flowing smoothly. Smile and nod. These 2 techniques are lifesavers for my fellow introverts and I. We tend to freak ourselves out before a conversation is even started because we think we need to know exactly what to say, and like we just talked about, that's not true at all. My goal in every conversation is to effectively execute the 80-20 rule. I want to keep the other person talking for 80% of the time, and I only want to speak for about 20%. Why? Because, let's be honest, most people like to talk about themselves. Now, I didn't say we like opening up and talking that much with strangers, but when you get someone feeling comfortable, they won't mind sharing their opinions or sharing their thoughts with you. This is something that we can use to our advantage in any conversation. While the other person is talking gracefully, smile and nod. Research has proven that this will keep your fellow conversationalists talking. Frank Betcher once said, "I no longer worry about becoming a brilliant conversationalist. I simply try to be a good listener. I notice that people who do are usually welcome wherever they go." Use your listening skills to your advantage, and you'll experience incredible conversations wherever you go. As you sense that the conversation is going to be ending soon, you want to ask the other person something about their future. It doesn't need to be a deep question. It can be really as simple as like, what are you up to the rest of the day? Or what are your plans for the weekend? The purpose of this is to set yourself up for a smooth ending. As you shake their hand to say goodbye, you can say something like, hey, it was great chatting with you, Tom. Have a great time hiking with your family this weekend. The last impression can be just as important as the first one. It reminds the other person that you truly care and that you are actually interested, and it leaves both of you feeling good about the interaction. If the other person abruptly just ends the conversation, don't take it personally. Maybe they want to connect with some other person in the room, or they have an appointment to keep, or they just had to go to the bathroom. Remember, just smile, tell them it was nice talking to them, move forward. And you might be wondering, well, what if I want to keep in touch, stay connected with them? Great question. The most effective strategy that I've discovered is asking if he or she is on Facebook. I ask this for two reasons. The first is because at the time I'm writing or speaking this, there are 1.79 billion users on Facebook. So the chances are that they're probably on there. The second reason is because I doubt I would ever just out of the blue text or call that person. That comes off a little creepy to me, and it could send mixed signals, especially if the person I met were a woman. So if I asked if they're on Facebook and want to connect there, I always let them type in their name. It's just faster that way, and then send them a friend request. It strengthens that trust, giving them your phone to type in their name. Since most of us cherish our phones, it keeps us on life support. So don't worry if they don't have a Facebook account or they just don't want to stay connected. That rarely happens, and even if it does, you can just be thankful for the conversation and an opportunity to strengthen your confidence muscle. You can now successfully execute the 3-foot rule anytime, anywhere. Don't feel obligated to do it all the time, but I want to challenge you to start doing it at least once a day, or even just once a week at first. Once you've done the toughest part and initiated that conversation, you're going to need to know how to, Chapter 10, ask good questions. If you only take away one good back pocket tip from this book, this is the one you want to highlight, underline, start implementing immediately. Remember how earlier I mentioned that you want to keep the other person talking for 80% of the interaction, and then you'll become a brilliant conversationalist? Well, this is how you do it. You ask questions. I learned the power of this technique on that day that I had my first major breakthrough, and my whole life began to change. I started to become very curious exactly what I was afraid of. Since my biggest fear was talking to other people or remaining calm in a conversation, I started asking other people as many questions as I could think of. Keep them talking. What you'll begin to discover is that you'll learn a lot from other people and a lot about yourself. The ultimate outcome from asking questions is finding common ground with the person you're speaking with. Many of us feel shy and isolated because we don't believe others can relate to what we're feeling. Newsflash, we all have something in common. Generally speaking, we all want to feel loved. We all have our fears. We all want to feel accepted. We all want more out of at least one area of our life. With enough digging and sincere curiosity, we can connect with any given person anywhere in the world. Mind you, the language barriers. But your purpose for asking questions in a conversation is to find connection and build upon it. The power of a question. When my wife and I moved out to Maui, I started working as a barista at a nearby coffee shop located inside of a resort in Kaanapali. No matter how crazy the morning rush was, I did my best, some days were tougher than others, to ask a question or give a compliment that might make the customer's day just a little bit better. One day, a man in his early 30s walked in for his morning espresso with his 3 young boys who were running and jumping around in every which direction. His face held this expression of exhaustion from trying to keep up with the kids, but I also saw genuine joy and love for them. While handing him his double Americano, I asked, "What's the best part about being a father?" He was completely thrown off and looked puzzled by the question. He stopped and pondered for a good 5 seconds before answering it. Their unconditional love. It's the type of love that just can't be put into words. He gently smiled as he started to walk away before he stopped mid-stride, turned back to the counter, and put a $20 bill in the tip jar. I'll never forget the way his face lit up after answering that question. The tip he gave was obviously extremely generous, but what was far more valuable to me on that day was the lesson he taught me. We all have the power to make another person feel noticed, grateful, or appreciated by asking the right question. What types of questions should I ask? The depth of your questions should depend on your relationship with the other person. You might not want to ask someone, what's the purpose of life, the first time you meet them? Or maybe you do. And on the flip side, you probably don't want to ask the same person you've been dating for the last 3 years, so what do you like to do for fun? Or something like that. Here are some of my favorite questions to ask someone I'm still getting to know, diving deeper with. What are you passionate about? What's your family like? Who's your favorite historical figure? What's your story? What's the best part about being a parent? If you could have lunch with anyone, dead or alive, who would it be and why? If money were no object, how would you really spend each day? If you could visit anywhere in the world, where would you go and why? Have you read a book that completely changed your perspective? These type of questions go beyond surface level and give you the chance to learn more about another person's true self without making them feel uncomfortable. Side note, these are my favorite types of questions to ask people. So if those questions seem a little too much for you, especially at first with someone, you might want to scale it down and start with the basics. What do you do for a living? Where do you go to school? Where did you grow up? What's your favorite place to eat? What's your favorite movie? Who's your best friend? Where's the best vacation you've been on? Simple questions like these just to start break the ice with them. Again, it's less important exactly what you're saying here, and it's more important that you're engaged in the conversation and you're continuously asking questions that stimulate the other person's mind. Just keep asking questions and comment on what the other person says. That's all you need to do in a good conversation. If an awkward silence threatens to put an untimely end to the conversation, have some ready-to-go questions to fill it. Be an active listener. What most people do while the other person is talking is they think about what they're going to say next. If you have the habit of doing this, make the decision right now that you're going to work on quieting your mind and being fully present and actively listening while the other person speaks. The 5 elements of active listening are, number 1, provide positive feedback both verbally and non-verbally. Verbal feedback is, I see, yeah, I gotcha, stuff like that. Non-verbal feedback includes looking them in the eyes, smiling, giving appropriate facial expressions, gestures, stuff we talked about before. So number 2, you want to ask questions to clarify what you're hearing. If you're not so sure about the meaning of the person's words, ask clarifying questions like, what do you mean by that? Make sure the speaker understands your intentions are to seek clarification rather than a challenge. So going back to that example, you don't want to be like, what do you mean by that? More of, what do you mean by that? Think about your voice inflection there. Number 3 is reword what the speaker is saying to see if you understand them correctly. Preface your rewording with comments like, so if I understand you correctly, you're saying, and then say what they said. Is that right? Stuff like that. Again, the words aren't as important as much as seeking clarification and diving deeper. Number 4 is you want to avoid interrupting. Remain silent except for verbal feedback and non-verbal feedback, or asking clarifying questions until they've completely finished a thought. Then give your responses and ignore any emotional argument they may have used and focus simply on the facts and logic of what they're saying there. And lastly, number 5, be open-minded and tolerant. It's your role as a listener it's more important to clearly understand what the speaker is saying than to indicate whether you agree or disagree with it. That way you can usually get to the truth behind their words. Once you know what their truth is, you can come to find some understanding. What you'll discover as you begin to practice this is that you can learn a lot more from another person by their emotion behind the words and not just the words themselves. Start paying attention to what the other person's body language is. If you notice the emotion doesn't align with the words they're speaking, start asking more questions about that. Have you ever watched that show, Criminal Minds? It's definitely a guilty pleasure for Dominique and I. We love the psychology behind it and the way the profiles observe the other people's body behavior to come up with conclusions. We don't have to work for the BAU of the FBI to use this technique, start noticing the truth behind people's words. We can keep our camera out and we'll be given more clues about what the next questions are that we're going to ask them. We can't get better at this skill by simply reading a book or this book. We've got to put this back pocket tip into everyday use. The next time you're out in public, ask at least one person a question. Notice your surroundings, find common ground, and spark up a conversation. It's okay if the interaction is short and doesn't go anywhere. This is more about you developing new skills and facing your fears. To put this all together and ensure sustainable success with your communication skills, you're going to need Chapter 11, The Secret Sauce. I am completely aware that there's a very good chance that you've already heard many of the ideas and techniques that you're reading about. Sometimes we just need to hear it from a different perspective and from someone else's story. I've given you the blueprint to get in the right mindset and use these back pocket tips that have been proven by hundreds of thousands of people to overcome shyness and improve social skills. Now, this last technique is an idea you may not have heard before, and I believe it is the secret sauce to actually make this all work for you. It's like, be honest with me. How many times have you known exactly what to do, you know exactly how to do it, but you still didn't follow through? How often have you had an idea of what you could say to spark up a conversation with someone who looks interesting or interested, but something held you back and you hid in your shell instead? Your days of self-sabotage end now. How to stop screwing yourself over. That was the title of a TED Talk that popped up on the suggested videos, thanks YouTube, and out of pure curiosity, I clicked on the link. I was totally unaware that I was about to stumble upon life-changing information. In the video, Mel Robbins introduces what she calls the 5-second rule, and no, not the one about picking up food off the ground and eating it within 5 seconds. She suggests that we all already know what we want, but knowing what we want is not enough. Just like I was talking about before, it's just not as simple as Nike's "Just Do It" slogan. Otherwise, we'd all be living the life of our dreams. The reason why we don't take action and follow through is because when our feelings and our thoughts are up against each other in the moment of decision, our feelings usually win. Does that sound familiar? I really want to make new friends in class. I just don't have the courage to introduce myself. Or I really want to speak up in our weekly meetings at work. I just don't feel like it. I really want to ask that girl or guy out on a date. But what if she says or he says no? Our feelings can be either our best friend or our worst enemy, depending on the action or inaction that we take. Knowing what to do and knowing why you want to do it won't ever be enough. So what's the solution? In Mel Robbins' words, if you have an impulse to act on a goal, you must physically move within 5 seconds or your brain will kill the idea. Start the countdown once you have the impulse and then take action. So Eric, what does this look like in real life? Okay, so you see that person you've been wanting to meet and introduce yourself to, and you start the countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You say hi and introduce yourself. When your boss asks if anyone has any ideas for the upcoming project, you start the countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and speak up. There are hundreds and hundreds of opportunities, thousands probably, that you can use this 5-second rule to overcome your shyness and become an effective communicator. Ralph Waldo Emerson is quoted by as saying, "Do the thing and you will have the power. But they that do not the thing have not the power." No more pondering, no more contemplating the life that you want to live, the person you want to become. The power and the magic starts when we just go for it. No matter how many books we read, audios we listen to, seminars we attend, nothing changes until we do. If we wait until we have the courage or motivation, we'll be waiting the rest of our lives. If you let it, this secret sauce, this little countdown can transform your life because it's grounded in taking action. My twist on the 5-second rule. When I first learned about Mel Robbins' simple yet incredibly effective technique, I saw immediate results. I was finally able to stay consistent with that 4 a.m. wake-up call I was telling you about, and every morning to this day, I still jump in the cold shower and I begin that countdown. When I'm out running errands and I feel the urge to share a compliment or ask a question to a stranger, I begin that countdown. When I need to make a call for a business that I've been putting off and avoiding, I begin the countdown. However, I added a little slight adjustment to it. I noticed that 5 seconds was a little too much time to give my brain before it went back to panic mode and I'd talk myself out of it. So I cut it down to 3 seconds and it worked like a charm for me. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I'm perfect with this technique or any of them that I've given you. I still let my fear get the best of me at times. I still hold back at times. But here's the thing, I don't beat myself up about it anymore because I know that this is a lifetime commitment to improvement, which is what we're going to talk about in the next chapter. But right here, right now, think about something that you've been wanting to do for a while, but you keep putting it off. It doesn't need to be a grand gesture like giving a speech or anything like that. It can literally be as simple as making plans with a friend, telling someone I'm sorry, or cleaning up your room. Once you've locked in on what you need to do, put this audio down and start the countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Or you can make it 3 seconds. If you start to doubt yourself with, yeah, but, then start the countdown all over again. Don't wait another minute. Do it now. Start practicing this, especially in social situations, as much as possible. This technique will help you see instant progress in your conversation skills. But remember that this is a Chapter 12, Lifetime Commitment to Growth. Did you try out the 5-second rule from last chapter? How'd it go? How do you feel? If not, put this thing down and go do it right now. Let me remind you that the purpose of this book, again, is to start taking action so that you see the changes and become and express more of your true self. That's what we're after here. Assuming that you've done it and you started using the other back pocket tips in your daily life, we can begin to move forward as this journey together is coming to an end for now. There is no finish line. Since reading Control the Crazy for the first time, I've gone back and reread that book multiple times. I needed that constant reminder of ideas and strategies that would help me detach from the negative beliefs and thoughts that kept creeping into my consciousness. I believed in that book and the ideas in it so much that I started sharing it with anyone who was interested. So I'd give them my Kindle information so that they could read that book for free. I gave it to so many people that it was locked out of my account. I was locked out of my account and I couldn't download it to any more devices. And even to this day, I still can't get back into it. So I'm going to need to buy another copy soon. But anyway, since then, I've read over 200 books and thousands of hours of audio in the areas of psychology, sociology, human development. Amazon puts many of these books in the genre of self-help, but I like to think of it more as self-discovery. I'm sharing this not to brag or boost my ego, but to encourage you to commit to a lifetime of discovering yourself through books and audios that can change your mindset and ultimately change your life. I like to think of the ideas from the books and audios as seeds being planted in my brain. Growth occurs when I take action on the ideas from those books. Action is like rain and sunshine. Without it, seeds won't sprout or grow. I never know when the harvest will come, but when it does, it feels amazing. I hope you go back and listen to this audio again, and if you get a chance, read the book. I think there's something powerful when our eyes meet the page and we consume the information that way as well. And you also share it with your friends. More importantly, I hope that you seek out authors, speakers, and successful people who have the skills, knowledge, and insight that you wish to develop. Albert Einstein once said, "Once you stop learning, you start dying." The irony here is that I used to hate reading. I was an average student going through school. I'd skim through the books or look them up on SparkNotes. Is SparkNotes still relevant? Do people still listen to that, read that? I don't know. Anyway, I was an average student. Especially in college, I can't remember more than maybe 1 or 2 times that I actually did the assigned reading all the way through. But see, what happened here is my self-esteem, my confidence, my inner peace started to increase once I realized that learning isn't about memorizing facts. Instead, it's this journey of becoming aware of ourselves, strengthening our minds. So we can do this by listening to those books that align with who we are, who we want to become, and stimulate the mind in that way. The next step. My invitation to you is simple. I'm asking you right here and right now to commit to a lifetime of personal development so that you can become the best version of yourself that you can be. In other words, your true self. I want you to start envisioning your life once you've overcome your shyness. Who do you want to be? What do you want to do? Where do you want to go? What kind of legacy do you want to leave behind for your family and the world around you? If we're only focused on overcoming shyness, again, I've said this multiple times, but we're vulnerable to remaining stuck in that illusion for longer than we'd like. We only have one shot at this thing called life, my friend, and even if you believe in reincarnation, isn't it about time that you get off the wheel of birth, mediocre life and death? I'm certain that you have the talents, abilities, and gifts that the world needs to witness. I'm giving you permission right here and right now to be yourself in a world that tries to label and define you as you're supposed to be. Don't give in to that illusion. Be boldly and unapologetically you, your true self, in your pursuit and commitment to living a life that you can be proud of. I believe in you. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You got this. Bonus, the best advice I've ever received. You've got all that you need to overcome shyness, break out of your shell, and express more of your true self. And when you don't feel like doing it, you now know to start doing that countdown from 5 or 3 and take action. As we conclude our journey together with this book, this audio, I want to share with you one last story. It's a message that forever changed my life, and I know it can do the same for you. So my dad and I started a morning tradition on my first day of middle school that lasted until my junior year of high school. Every morning, he would drive me to school, and it was our 10 minutes to talk about sports, school, girls, life, all that good stuff. Despite any drama and chaos that was going on at home, and there was a lot of it growing up, this was our place of peace together. I could talk to my dad about anything and felt safe that he wasn't going to judge or criticize me. He played his father role, but he also felt like a best friend. Once he pulled up to the school, he would turn to me, give me a few bucks for lunch, followed by a big hug, and he'd always say, "Be the best you can be today, buddy." As a teenager, that was a nice little saying, but I didn't yet comprehend the depth and true meaning of it. Years have gone by, life's challenges and obstacles have presented themselves in various forms, and I've come to really cherish those words and those moments that we had together and develop a greater appreciation for those 7 words that he instilled in me. To be the best that we can be, we must become self-aware. We must practice gratitude daily. We must live in a beautiful state of mind. We must be honest with ourselves and others. We must admit our mistakes, remain humble, love unconditionally, seek adventure, commit to growth, live life out of our comfort zones, and maybe most importantly, contribute to making someone else's life better. Thank you for letting me be a part of your journey. I'm hopeful that at least one idea from this book can make a profound impact on your life so that you can better serve those people around you. Be the best that you can be today and every day moving forward. Your friend, Erik Myers. Invitation, you're not alone. One of the biggest lies I repeated to myself over and over again when my shyness was holding me back from being my true self was that no one else could possibly understand how I was feeling. I felt isolated from the world around me because I unconsciously chose to disconnect. It wasn't until I began to open up that I discovered that so many others felt the same way that I did. We all have different experiences, but our feelings are universal. There were so many people and communities that believed in me before I could believe in myself. And now I feel responsible to create a safe online community where people can connect, share stories, be inspired, celebrate those small wins, trade tips and techniques, and ultimately support each other. Our community is already growing fast way faster than I expected, and the only thing it's missing right now is you. To join the Facebook group, simply go to facebook.com/groups/overcoming-shyness. Again, that's facebook.com/groups/overcoming-shyness, and request to join. There, you'll be able to meet people who have felt the same way that you feel, and you can make new friends along this journey. I'll be posting videos, quotes, articles daily, and I encourage you to contribute to the group. I'm excited to see you in there. And again, if we haven't yet connected on social media, I'd love to follow you and your journey. Follow me on Instagram at Erik Myers 4, ERIKMYERS 4, and Facebook.com/Erik Myers 4. Please do not hesitate to send me a direct message, leave a comment, ask a question. I do my best to respond daily, to interact with you guys. I'm excited to learn more about you, your journey, connect more. I'll talk to you soon. Okay, one shameless, urgent plea. Thank you again for reading this book. I really appreciate all the feedback, and I love hearing what you have to say. I need your input to make the next version of this, my future books, even better. So please take 1 to 2 minutes at the most. Hop on Amazon and leave a helpful review. Even if you're listening to this audio on YouTube, that's fine. Head over to Amazon. I would love to hear your feedback. I appreciate it so much. And one last thing before I let you go here, if you'd like to book me to speak at an event at your high school, college, your company, anything like that, I would be absolutely thrilled and honored. Please head over to www.overcomingshyness.co for more information. I'm looking forward to delivering an inspiring, heartfelt, and captivating experience for you and your audience. Talk to you soon. This has been the audiobook version of Overcoming Shyness, Break Out of Your Shell and Express Your True Self, written and narrated by Erik Myers, copyright 2017, Dom and Erik Fitness. Hey, thank you again so much for taking your time, which is, I know, the most precious thing we have is our time. I'd love to help as many people as we can with this book. So if it helped you out, if you think it would help out a friend, please pass it along to them. And again, if you could just take 1 to 2 minutes, head over to Amazon, leave a review there. It would mean the world to me. I'm looking forward to connecting, learning more about you and your journey along the way. I'll talk to you soon, my friend.